The scent of lavender and old paper filled Evelyn's small sunroom. At 70 years old, her world had shrunk, not unpleasantly, but undeniably. The vibrant tapestry of life had faded to softer hues since Thomas was gone. 2 years now. 2 years since the car accident that had stolen her son, her beloved Thomas, the bright light of her life. Grief was a constant companion, a quiet shadow that sat with her through the long afternoons. She missed his booming laugh, his messy workshops filled with sawdust and half-finished projects, his unwavering optimism. Thomas, a man who had built a successful local construction company from the ground up, brick by painstaking brick, had always been a rock. Her daughter-in-law, Clara, was different, strikingly beautiful, ambitious, and always impeccably put together. Thomas had adored her from the moment he met her in college. They had built their life together, side by side, sharing dreams of success and a future filled with comfort and security. Evelyn had welcomed Clara into their family, loving her because Thomas loved her, admiring her drive, even if she sometimes found her a little distant. As Thomas's company grew, so did their lifestyle. The modest house became a sprawling estate. The sensible cars were replaced by luxury vehicles. Their circle of friends shifted too, gravitating towards others in their affluent world. Evelyn, content in her quiet routines and her old friendships, sometimes felt like a visitor in their increasingly grand life. She'd visit the estate, admire the manicured gardens, sip tea from delicate china cups, and feel a quiet pang of disconnect. Thomas, bless his heart, always made her feel welcome, bridging the gap with his easy affection. Clara was always polite, attentive in her way, but Evelyn sensed a shift in her, a hardening, a preoccupation with appearances and status. When Thomas became ill, a cruel, swift illness that stole his strength bit by bit, Evelyn watched, helpless, her heart breaking anew each day. He fought bravely, still managing the company for as long as he could, relying heavily on Clara and his trusted second-in-command, a sharp, ambitious executive named Marcus. Thomas had confided in Evelyn about how much he relied on Marcus, how he was grooming him to take over, ensuring the company would continue, ensuring Clara would be provided for. Evelyn hadn't known Marcus well, a handshake and a brief exchange at company events, but Thomas trusted him implicitly. During those difficult months, Evelyn spent as much time as she could by Thomas's side. She'd sit with him, hold his hand, talk about simple things, memories of his childhood, stories of the town they both loved. Clara was often there too, managing the endless logistics of his care, the doctors, the nurses, the business calls that never seemed to stop. Evelyn saw the strain on Clara's face, the exhaustion, but also something else, something detached. There were moments when Clara seemed more focused on her phone, on business matters, than on Thomas's fading presence. Evelyn pushed the thought away. Grief affected people in different ways, she told herself. Perhaps Clara was simply burying her pain in work, in practicality. Thomas's passing left a chasm in Evelyn's life. The world felt muted, the silence in her house deafening. The funeral was a blur of sympathetic faces and hushed condolences. Evelyn stood by the graveside, the raw wound of her loss exposed, tears streaming down her face. She felt the weight of Thomas's absence, a physical ache in her chest. Clara was there, standing beside her, draped in elegant black. Evelyn had expected tears, perhaps a shared embrace in their mutual sorrow. But Clara's face was composed, her eyes dry. She stood tall, almost imperious. And then Evelyn saw Marcus approach, his arm sliding around Clara's waist in a gesture that felt far too intimate, too public, too soon. They exchanged a look, a knowing glance, and a brief, hushed exchange that seemed entirely out of place, almost celebratory. Evelyn's breath hitched. A cold, unpleasant suspicion curled in her stomach. It couldn't be. Not now. Not here. But the casual ease between them, the lack of shared grief Clara displayed, the almost imperceptible air of relief that seemed to surround her and Marcus. It planted a seed of doubt, a seed that quickly sprouted into a painful, ugly truth, confirmed by the hushed whispers that circulated through the town, in the weeks that followed. Clara and Marcus. They had been seeing each other. For months, some said. Even while Thomas was sick. The betrayal cut deeper than Evelyn could have imagined. Not only had she lost her son, but the daughter-in-law she had tried to love had seemingly betrayed his memory, his trust, even before he was gone. The image of Clara and Marcus at the graveside, that inappropriate intimacy, burned in her mind. It was a stark contrast to her own raw, debilitating grief. She retreated further into herself, the grief now compounded by bitterness and a profound sense of disillusionment. She couldn't bring herself to see Clara, to speak to her. The shared history felt tainted. The love she had offered felt foolishly misplaced. Clara, for her part, made no effort to reach out to Evelyn. The bridge between them, always a little shaky, seemed to have completely collapsed. In the months that followed, Evelyn heard snippets of news through the grapevine. Clara and Marcus were running the company now. They were making big changes, laying off longtime employees Thomas had valued, selling off parts of the business. It was clear they were driven by a different set of priorities, a cold efficiency that lacked Thomas's human touch. Then came the rumors of lavish spending, of properties being sold off, of Clara and Marcus living a life of conspicuous luxury built on Thomas's legacy. Evelyn heard it all, each piece of news a fresh stab of pain. It felt like they were dismantling not just the company, but the very values Thomas had stood for. The rumors took a darker turn eventually. Whispers of financial difficulties, of risky investments, of Marcus's questionable dealings. Thomas's carefully built company, his life's work, seemed to be floundering under their leadership. Evelyn felt a grim, sad satisfaction in this news, followed quickly by a wave of sorrow for Thomas, whose dreams were being shattered even in death. Then came the news that swept through the town like wildfire. The company was bankrupt, completely collapsed. Marcus had disappeared, vanished overnight, leaving behind a trail of debt and recrimination. Clara was left with nothing. The sprawling estate, the luxury cars, the designer clothes, all gone. She was facing lawsuits, creditors, the complete and utter ruin of her life. The people they had alienated, the old friends they had discarded, offered no help. Her own family, embarrassed and disgusted, had reportedly turned their backs on her. Evelyn heard it all from Mrs. Gable, her neighbor, during their weekly chat over the fence. Mrs. Gable, a kind woman with a gentle heart, relayed the details with a mix of sadness and judgment. "Seems she got what she deserved. Bless her heart," Mrs. Gable said, shaking her head. "Betraying Thomas like that, treating people so coldly. Karma, they call it." Evelyn listened, a knot of complex emotions twisting in her stomach. Part of her felt that grim satisfaction Mrs. Gable spoke of, justice of a sort. But another part, the part that remembered the young woman Thomas had loved, the woman who had been his partner in building their life, felt a flicker of something else. Pity? Compassion? Could a person truly be all bad? She didn't see Clara, didn't seek her out. The thought of facing her, of seeing the consequences of her choices laid bare, was too difficult, too painful. The betrayal still stung, a raw wound beneath the scar of grief. Weeks turned into months. Autumn painted the hillsides in fiery colors, a stark contrast to the muted world Evelyn felt trapped in. She continued her quiet routine, finding solace in the predictable rhythm of her days. One afternoon, a cool, crisp day, perfect for a walk, Evelyn decided to visit the town square. It was a familiar spot, a place she had often gone with Thomas for ice cream or to sit on a bench and watch the world go by. The square was quiet, a few people sitting on benches, children playing near the fountain, and then she saw her, sitting alone on a bench under a large oak tree, her shoulders slumped, her gaze fixed on the ground. Clara. She looked different, smaller. Her clothes were simple, worn, a stark contrast to the expensive outfits Evelyn remembered. Her beautiful face was gaunt, lines of hardship etched around her mouth and eyes. The proud, confident air was gone, replaced by an aura of profound weariness and defeat. She looked utterly alone. Evelyn froze. Her first instinct was to turn and walk away, to retreat from the painful reminder of Thomas, of the betrayal, of everything that had been lost. The bitterness, the anger, flared for a moment. She deserves this, a small, hard voice whispered in her mind. Look at what she did to Thomas, to his company, to you. But as she stood there, hidden by the trunk of a maple tree, watching Clara, something else stirred within her. Not anger, but a deep, unsettling sadness. The woman on the bench wasn't the glamorous, cold Clara of the estate. She was a broken soul, stripped bare by misfortune. She looked lost, vulnerable, almost the way Evelyn had felt after Thomas died. A memory, soft and persistent, surfaced. A memory of Thomas, of his boundless capacity for forgiveness, his belief in second chances, his unwavering kindness. Everyone makes mistakes, Mama, he used to say, his voice warm and understanding. The important thing is what you learn from them. Evelyn took a deep breath, the cool autumn air filling her lungs. She looked at Clara again, really looked at her, seeing the raw pain in her slumped posture, the quiet despair in her eyes. It wasn't the time for bitterness. It wasn't the time for anger. It was time for something else. Something Thomas would have done. She began to walk towards the bench, each step deliberate. Clara didn't notice her until she was standing almost directly in front of her. Clara looked up, her eyes widening in shock, then filling with a mixture of shame and surprise. Evelyn? She whispered, her voice raspy. Evelyn stood there for a moment, the past rushing between them, a silent torrent of pain and regret. She saw the years of disconnect, the opulent estate, the cold funeral, the rumors of betrayal, the news of ruin. And then she saw Thomas's face in her mind, his kind eyes, his forgiving smile. She reached out a hand, not to point or accuse, but simply to offer, an olive branch in a world that had been so harsh. Clara stared at the outstretched hand, tears suddenly welling up in her eyes, streaming down her thin cheeks. The dam of composure she had held onto for so long seemed to break. She started to sob, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her thin frame. "Oh, Evelyn!" she choked out, reaching for Evelyn's hand, grasping it tightly. I, I am so sorry. For everything. I made such terrible mistakes." Evelyn sat down beside her on the bench, holding Clara's hand, letting her cry. She didn't pull away. She didn't say, "I told you so," or "How could you?" Not now, maybe not ever. The pain was still there, the memory of the betrayal a dull ache. But seeing Clara so utterly broken, so consumed by regret, shifted something within Evelyn. The need for retribution, for dwelling in the hurt, faded in the face of such raw human suffering. When Clara's sobs subsided, leaving her breathless and shaky, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I know you must hate me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "After Thomas, after everything, I don't deserve your kindness." "Hate is a heavy burden to carry, Clara," Evelyn said softly, looking out at the changing leaves, "especially when you're already carrying so much else." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "What you did, it hurt, more than you know. It hurt Thomas, and it hurt me, and I don't understand it. But Thomas loved you for a long time, and he believed in second chances." She looked at Clara, her gaze steady and compassionate. "You said you made mistakes. Are you sorry for them? Truly sorry?" Clara nodded vehemently, fresh tears starting. "More than you can imagine. I lost myself, Evelyn. I got caught up in things that didn't matter. I wasn't there for Thomas the way I should have been. I didn't appreciate what I had. And then Marcus, he used me. He took everything. And now I have nothing. No money, no home, no friends. My family won't speak to me. I'm completely alone." She looked down at their joined hands. Except you came." Evelyn squeezed her hand. "You are not alone now, Clara." In the quiet of that autumn afternoon, sitting on a bench in the town square, two women who had been driven apart by grief and betrayal began, haltingly, to find their way back to each other. It wasn't about forgetting the past or excusing the hurt. It was about acknowledging it, facing it, and choosing to build something new from the wreckage. It was about forgiveness, not just as a word, but as an act. a bridge built across a chasm of pain. Clara's path to redemption was long and difficult. She had to face the consequences of her actions, the legal issues, the judgment of the town. But she did it with a newfound humility, a quiet strength that Evelyn recognized and admired. Evelyn, despite her initial reservations, found herself offering help, not out of obligation, but out of a deeper, quieter love that had survived even the worst betrayal. She helped Clara find a small, affordable apartment in town, helped her look for work, offered her a warm meal, and a listening ear when the weight of her regret became too much to bear. Their relationship was different from before, less about shared status or social events, more about shared vulnerability, quiet companionship, and the slow, painstaking process of healing. They talked about Thomas, not just about his illness and death, but about his life, his kindness, the things he had taught them both. They found a shared connection in their love for him, a common ground that helped bridge the past. Evelyn never forgot the pain of the betrayal, but it no longer consumed her. It became a part of the story, a reminder of the complexities of human nature, but not the whole story. She saw Clara's genuine remorse, her struggle to rebuild her life, her quiet acceptance of the consequences. She saw the woman Thomas had loved, stripped of the layers of ambition and misplaced priorities, finding her way back to a simpler, more authentic self. As the seasons changed, Evelyn and Clara built a new kind of relationship, one based on forgiveness, understanding, and the quiet resilience that comes from weathering life's storms. They were no longer mother-in-law and daughter-in-law in the traditional sense, but two women connected by love and loss, helping each other navigate the path forward. They would visit Thomas's grave together sometimes, standing side by side in quiet remembrance. Their shared presence, a testament to the enduring power of healing, the quiet strength of forgiveness, and the unpredictable, sometimes painful, but ultimately redemptive journey of the human heart. Evelyn knew Thomas would have approved. He would have seen their shared journey as a testament to the very best of what it means to be human. The capacity to stumble, to fall, and to find the courage and the grace to rise again, hand in hand.